The future of trans. What is the future of the transgender community and all that that entails? Well, we're going to start off with the good news. The good news is that you're not going away. You've encroached yourself into the fabric of society in such a way that there's no way to get rid of you in any way, shape, or form. Hitler couldn't do it, and now with technology and the meme that is transgender, that thought process has embedded itself in such a way that it's impossible to get rid of. There's a first world nation. Guess what? They know you exist. People are going to get curious. Some people are going to question themselves. Now, people are going to come to their own conclusions as to whether or not this is or is not correct. We're not going to talk about that. Not just yet, anyways. The bad news is that there is going to be a major decline happening real soon. Major decline. And the worst part about that is that you actually brought it upon yourselves. But how can you do this? How is this not just right-wing propaganda? Well, let's start off with the detransitioners. Recently I did an interview, a two-part interview, and there's going to be a third part with Layla Jane. Her case is actually the second worst I can think of. She's not as popular as Chloe Cole, but I mean, she's got just as much claim to how horrific a lot of these things can be as Cole. And they got each other on speed dial. That being said, with all the years of testifying that Layla Jane has been putting in, as well as Cole, Prisha, and many others, there's a lot of fruit that's been born against transgender surgeries. For minors. Even though a lot of these people don't want it for adults either, in the United States there's this thing called the First Amendment, and it will never be banned outright here, I don't believe. Or at least saying that you're trans will not be banned outright. Surgeries, certainly I see it over the horizon that for younger individuals, people under the age of 18, I think that's going to get banned outright. Over 18, I don't see that going away. I do, however, seeing it declining significantly. In fact, if I look at my notes over here on my other screen, based on recent reports, at least 21 institutions have made changes since January 2025. And there have been a lot more in the United States alone that have been just shutting down entirely. Children's Hospital Los Angeles, California, because they didn't want to lose federal funding. Children's National Hospital, Washington, D.C., same thing. University of Michigan Health, Cornwall Health, Kaiser Permanente. They're still giving out hormones. They are not, however, doing surgeries. And that's where I see a lot of this going, because if you look over in Europe, it's the same thing. A lot of the big places over in Europe that are performing these surgeries, yeah, totally. Gone. So, you're going to see a decline because people are not going to be transitioning at young ages and moving into adulthood with that. And if you look at the actual statistics here, and this ranges from 60% all the way up to 80%, 84%, based on the studies that I'm looking at right here. If you leave them alone, the kids alone, from when they first start having these thoughts all the way up until they're 18, and you don't let them medicalize at all, a lot of the times they just say, to hell with it. They don't transition. And I believe a good amount of the transgender population are people who didn't grow out of it because they were medicalized. It's like, how do I put it? It's basically the same thought process as holding the bag, but every transgender individual I can think of minus one, and I mentioned that particular individual in my second part of the interview with Layla Jane, everyone that I've met has regretted it. How do I know this? Either their tonality and their voice about them talking about it tells me that they're lying, or they've actually talked to me behind closed doors. It's like, yeah, sometimes I question if I made the right decision. Which brings me to the next point that I want to make. Since a lot of them are questioning their decision, and even though they won't say it out loud, let's talk about the people who actually detransition, like my friend Layla Jane, Chloe Cole, Prisha Mosley, I've met these people, and I've talked to these people, and I've met one of them in person. And here's what I noticed that is a trend amongst a lot of these individuals. Very rarely is it a case of, this was a bad decision, no one should do this. It's almost always a case of, it wasn't right for me, I'm going to support my friends. And then, due to the backlash of the transgender community, they get skewed to that direction of absolutely despising it to the point where they don't want it to happen at all ever again. And that's what winds up happening. They wind up being disgusted with the behavior of the trans community, because you got a lot of people who will just send the most outrageous and evil hate mail possible to them, and then it pushes them in the other direction. To absolutely not wanting anything to do with this at all. They want everything just gone. And not even my whole First Amendment idea of, yeah, when you're an adult you should be allowed to do it, but just outright gone. And that's what we're seeing here now. This is where the push is going. And of course, with the arguments online, you see a lot of individuals who believe something and they're completely 100% incorrect on it. The conversation about transition being 100% reversible if it, so long as medical surgeries have not been done, is a lie. And we've known this for a while, before trans became the mainstream. How do we know this? In women, we've known this because the female bodybuilder community. And in men, synthetic estrogen had been used as a cure for... this is just ridiculous. As a cure for homosexuality. Alan Turing, the guy who was known for the Turing test, him, he's gay. Was gay. Rest in peace, sir. Had a movie made about him. Haven't seen it, but I should watch it. You know what, I'm probably going to watch that tomorrow when I'm done editing this video. Turing was prescribed estrogen, and that was a common cure. Quote-unquote cure. And that just did not work at all. I'm not going to go elaborate on that, but I am going to state that this is what has led us knowing all of this information for a while. We've used it in science, synthetic hormones, for a while. Testosterone in women, we know about that because of the bodybuilder community. Estrogen in men, we know that because of the homophobic utilization of estrogen as a cure for gayness. And this leads to the next segue. LGB without the T. Certainly mass majority of gay people, in my opinion, and this is just my anecdotal from what I'm observing, are okay. They still love the T's. But I see the gap between LGB without the T and LGBT widening every day. Every day. There's a lot more thought processes that go out. And one of the theories that I've been hearing a lot of is that gender transition is homophobic because it is, well, let's just give you surgery and you can just, be the other thing, because, we can't have a little homosexual around. We need to, surgerize you to medically make you straight by swapping your gender altogether. I find this to be evil, and I find this to be wrong. And I see this happening a lot more. This thought process. Amongst people I don't even talk to about these things, but I'll hear them ask me about it because, I do come off as incredibly right-wing. Look at me. Look at the things I've talked about on this channel. And yes, I see more of this every day, but once again, completely anecdotal. Gotta give myself credit where it's due and be completely honest about what my experiences are. As we continue through this topic of conversation, where else do I see this going? Well, amongst the red pill community and amongst, well, any of the communities that I've frequented in, uh, now stuttering. It's because I lack water. Amongst the conversations that I've been hearing for quite some time, you see civilization tends to move in the direction that the women move. And right now, I'm seeing a lot more women move against trans for one reason and one reason only. I mean, it's more than one reason, but this is the main reason, in my opinion. We see a lot of women who don't like the idea of a man dressed up as a woman utilizing the idea of just saying, "Oh, I'm just transgender," as an excuse to go into the women's bathroom and act like an animal. Now, I'm going to state this right now. I believe that 99% of the people who do this aren't, in any way, shape, or form, a believer trans. They're just using this as an excuse. But the problem I hear with this is that whenever I hear this brought up, it gets ignored. I've been in plenty of spaces with trans individuals who, whenever this story gets brought up, usually there's a lot of words that are not so nice used in, and they focus in on that, and they don't even focus on the fact that somebody who was dressed up in women's clothing, a man in women's clothing, had decided to assault somebody. They focus on the words. The words that get used, the slurs. It doesn't take away from the problem, it shows the anger. And the fact that they focus on the slurs and not the fact that somebody got assaulted in a bathroom, it says a lot. It's a tale as old as time. And you're starting to hear a lot more of men abusing the ability to just say that they're trans to go into women's restrooms and abuse women. You're seeing this get used a lot more. And the trans community is basically denying that this exists. That they're not screaming that this is a horrible thing that needs to stop. They're simply either ignoring what had happened or they're focusing on other things. You use naughty words. As we continue on with the topic of culture, a lot of video game companies, media companies, because there's this idea that we need to insert trans individuals into everything. Yeah, trans people exist everywhere. It's always done haphazardly and inorganically. And because of that, a lot of media companies, whenever people hear the word trans, a lot of media is losing money because people won't watch it if they just know that there's a single trans individual within the thing. Whether it be a show, a movie, a video game, and if it makes sense within the story, I don't care. But if it's thrown in haphazardly, it usually sucks. And along with that, there's also the destruction of identity of other characters. Example, the most egregious one is that saying Link is a trans icon, just to me, that it's just so ridiculous. Link is not a trans icon. Link from Legend of Zelda. Because he literally, you have to wear girls' clothing for a certain part of Breath of the Wild. They're trying to scream he's a trans icon, and it's no. You see this with a lot of Marvel comics. You see this with a lot of characters who are suddenly being turned trans or gay. And it doesn't fit at all. Why not create a new character that just so happens to be any of these things? This is something that will work if done properly. If there's more to the character than just, oh, look, I'm trans. But, of course, that's not how this goes. Randomly just tossing it in there, it turns people off from the media, and a lot of companies are losing money because of that. In fact, it's gotten to the point where even if the topic doesn't even come up, but you see the person who's playing the character like to speak about these things uninvolved with a project, typically it just falls flat anyways. That's how much disdain this has created over time. It's lost companies millions, and people are seeing that this it's failing. It's making a bunch of companies just die. You look at the whole Sweet Baby Inc. thing. Everything the company has touched has gone to absolute trash. And so this leads to more disdain for the trans movement at all. In all, it's falling apart at the seams. The treatment of detransitioners, the bastardization of current intellectual media properties, in self-insertions all over the place. People are getting fatigued. And with a lot of the gender clinics not doing anything with kids under the age of 18, and that being the main thing that causes people to not transition later on in life, but yeah, you're going to a decline because of these factors compounding. So instead of it being 1 in every 10 person believes that they're trans, it's going to be 1 out of every 100. Not an exact number figure, but you get what I'm trying to say here. But alas, once again, let me repeat the good news. You're not going away. I think what's going to happen with all this is that it's going to distill into something more pure, something that can be palatable for the average individual. Something that can be, how do I put it? Something that's not going to be anywhere near as offensive to normal individuals. Something that's not going to cause them to just reach and just bleh, go away. I mean, think about it this way. We've gotten to the point in society where gay people are basically accepted and nobody really cares. Like, when I was in high school, gay people got tossed into lockers. Well, and even then, that was the tail end of that era in life. And now, being gay is basically, how do I put it? It's basically a fad. At some point, a lot of the kids that you meet are going to wonder if they're gay, and they're going to do gay stuff just because they're curious, and a lot of the times they'll spend time examining their identity as gay by doing things with the same sex for a while. And, yeah. But, as I said before, you're not going away, so don't worry. Anyways, for the future of the channel, for those of you who are interested, the next thing that we're going to be working on to help fund the channel, other than the stuff that we have below, we'll be selling wallets, handcrafted. Oh, I actually got my daily carry wallet here somewhere. Oh, there it is. So, before I actually started doing media things, I used to make holsters for guns. Gun holsters. Because that was the thing that I wanted to do. But wallets sell better and are more economical for the actual production process and take a lot less time. It'll be hand-stitched and will come in a variety of options. This wallet's made with horse ass. I'm not even kidding about that. We'll have 3 designs to start, and it'll be available at bgreaterclothing.com, which is down below. The next thing that's going on here, I got several more interviews lined up. I've got one with a business owner who is affected by the tariffs. I've got one with a gay pop star. I've got one with a savant in the 3D printed gun community. And when I say a savant, I mean the guy literally designed a gun in under a month. He didn't know how to work the CAD programs or anything like that, and just in a month he had a working gun. It's honestly amazing. And I got another interview with an original gangster. Like, the guy lived in the hood most of his life. Like, Chicago. He was GD and he was a vice lord. There's a lot to go in that, but, like, I'm not talking too much on that. Okay? Don't want to ruin the surprise. And I'm still working on the What is a Man documentary. Scripting, almost done. Just gotta get more B-roll filled. There are some extra parts that we want to add to the film, and it's gonna be awesome, especially if, we get the funding that we want. But that's gonna take upwards to about 20 grand, and that's being modest. Anyways, like, share, and subscribe. I want to know what you guys think. Have a good one.